No one anticipated Karoline Leavitt's bold move, but when she unexpectedly countered Ilhan Omar on live television, the reaction online was nothing short of explosive. This wasn't the first instance of a political debate reaching a boiling point, yet there was an unmistakable quality to this particular moment that set it apart. From the very first question thrown into the national spotlight, you could feel the tension in the air. The clock had just struck 7 on a Tuesday evening. During a live broadcast of American Roundtable, a primetime political discussion taking place in a studio located just outside Sacramento, California. Karoline Leavitt sat beneath the bright studio lights, her demeanor calm, hands gently resting on the desk. To her left, Representative Ilhan Omar leaned forward, poised for the discussion ahead. The show's producer had assured a lively debate, but no one could have anticipated the eruption that ensued. The conversation began, as it often does, with inquiries regarding election integrity and the public's confidence. But within just 3 minutes, Omar shifted the focus. She embarked on a sharp analysis of what she identified as an increasing extremism in right-wing political rhetoric, charging conservative leaders with igniting a climate of paranoia and fear. Leavitt remained composed, fully engaged in the moment, and as the host directed attention her way, she leaned in just a bit, her gaze fixed intently on Omar. "Congresswoman," she stated, her tone steady, "I find it intriguing that you address extremism while overlooking the divisive and inflammatory rhetoric emanating from your own party. I mean, let's discuss the facts here." There was a pause, not quite silence, but that kind of stillness that settles when something significant is about to unfold. Karoline didn't grab her notes. She didn't require them. "You once mentioned that certain U.S. policies were all about the Benjamins. That wasn't merely taken out of context. That was the context itself. And when people sought clarification, you only reinforced your stance. You've labeled sections of this nation as racist, backward, and uneducated. Yet when Republicans raise valid issues, we're suddenly accused of fear-mongering. You can't demand nuance, while withholding it from your own perspective." Omar's brows arched, the studio lights glinting in her eyes. For a moment, she remained silent, and it was that moment, the pause, the inhalation, that would be played back in slow motion on countless screens within hours. Karoline pressed on. "This isn't about left or right, this is about accountability. If a member of the opposing party had expressed even a fraction of what you've stated, their career would have been finished. But here you are, presenting yourself as a beacon of virtue, while overlooking the turmoil your words have contributed to." Her voice held no dramatics, no elevation in pitch, only a steady, measured, intentional delivery. The host attempted to change direction. "We need to concentrate on solutions," he interrupted. However, Omar dismissed him with a wave. "I have a right to critique systems of power," she shot back, "especially when they fail the communities I represent." Leavitt nodded slowly. "And so do we, but let's not pretend that critique gives anyone a free pass to dehumanize, divide, or rewrite the rules of engagement, depending on who's speaking." The silence returned, but this time it carried weight. Audiences at home remained engaged. They drew closer. They were experiencing something that felt spontaneous, something that transcended mere sound. It seemed as though there was a voice articulating the inconsistencies with clarity and composure. By the end of that segment, social media was already ablaze. Clips of Karoline's rebuttal were being edited, captioned, and shared with tags such as, "Finally someone speaks the truth," and "She was well prepared." It was more than mere political theater. It seemed like a turning point where a fresh perspective emerged and boldly questioned the established stories, with calmness, with conviction, and with unwavering resolve. But the story didn't end there. It was what happened after the camera stopped rolling that truly turned the narrative on its head. The show transitioned to a commercial break, and the set descended into that fleeting, peculiar silence that always accompanied a segment like this, a mix of tension and disbelief. A studio assistant distributed water bottles to the panel. The host leaned in, murmuring to the producer via his earpiece, probably racing to fine-tune the tone of the upcoming segment. Meanwhile, Karoline sat motionless, her expression inscrutable. Ilhan Omar reclined in her chair, her gaze drifting to the ceiling before she adjusted her position slightly. It wasn't a gesture of defeat, but rather one of contemplation. The nuance was understated. It was subtle, easily overlooked, yet undeniably present. Karoline remained composed, refraining from any display of triumph. She neither smiled nor sought validation from her fellow panelists. She sat in silence, her fingers delicately adjusting the sleeve of her blazer as she waited. A few feet behind the cameras, a floor manager named Paula, middle-aged with slightly crooked glasses, glanced at the screen and muttered softly, "She shut that down clean." She expressed it without the bias of a supporter or an enthusiast. She expressed it as one might remark on an impeccable chess play, a moment of insight that cut through the chaos. Behind the scenes, it wasn't long before the team's devices began buzzing like a swarm of bees. Messages, alerts, phone calls. Leavitt's primary consultant, Morgan Temple, surveyed the trending topics. Karoline's name had surged to the 4th spot nationally, surpassing even the buzz of sports and entertainment news. The video has been uploaded already. A member of the media team expertly edited the exchange into a polished 90-second segment and distributed it through official channels. As Karoline exited the set and entered the hallway, the view count had soared past 200,000, and that was merely on a single platform. "How about we use the side exit?" Morgan proposed. "There's a team waiting at the front. Journalists, a few, and some advocates as well." "You drew blood tonight." Karoline exhaled sharply through her nose. "That wasn't the plan." "No," Morgan agreed. "But you didn't flinch." The scent of fried food wafted in from a vendor cart nearby, mingling with the atmosphere. Karoline strode purposefully down the alley adjacent to the studio, deftly avoiding a small puddle of soda that shimmered beneath the warm glow of a flickering street lamp. They arrived at the car just as a voice called out her name from around the corner. A woman in her mid-30s, clad in jeans and a jacket that offered little warmth against the evening chill, jogged forward, her phone already capturing the moment. "Karoline," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "Hey, I just wanted to say, that was incredible. I mean, seriously," she said. "I've never heard anyone challenge her like that." Karoline paused, contemplating. This wasn't a setup. No angry protest signs. It's simply a matter of genuine curiosity. "I merely expressed my beliefs," Karoline responded. The woman acknowledged with a nod. "I don't agree with everything you stand for, but tonight you made me think, and that doesn't happen often anymore." Karoline expressed her gratitude, climbed into the car, and closed the door firmly behind her. Inside, the silence felt denser, not in a bothersome way, just serene. Morgan stole a glance. "You know this is going to escalate, even more tomorrow." Karoline remained focused on the window. "They'll come for me," she said, "and they always do." Morgan paused, contemplating, then shrugged. "Perhaps, but they must confront the truth first." The following morning, major networks were airing the segment repeatedly. Political analysts from all sides engaged in discussions about the exchange. Yet even those who frequently criticized Karoline had to concede that she maintained her composure and refrained from resorting to personal attacks. She maintained her stance. During one broadcast, a previous Democratic strategist leaned closer to the camera and remarked, "Look, I may not align with her political views, but that moment was executed with precision. It was meticulous. She revealed a long-standing oversight we've been unaware of for years, and she accomplished this without a hint of raising her voice." Yet not everyone offered their praise. Omar's supporters described the exchange as a cunning trap, a deliberate ambush aimed at inflicting humiliation. Demonstrations were planned in multiple urban areas. Hashtags such as "Stand with Ilhan" and "Karoline Out" trended alongside others like "Finally Truth" and "Leave It Logic." That evening, Karoline's father, a retired Navy man now managing a mechanic shop in the heart of rural Indiana, reached out to her on her cell phone. He usually kept quiet during calls, but this time he cleared his throat and remarked, Saw the thing. You didn't even flinch. Your grandfather would have liked that. That was enough. That was everything she needed. Just when the dust appeared to settle, an unexpected figure from Karoline's past emerged with a warning that threatened to unravel everything. 2 days following the debate's broadcast, Karoline had a quiet sit-down interview lined up at a local affiliate in Boise, Idaho. It was meant to be a low-pressure moment, a respite from the national glare, an opportunity to discuss policy and redirect attention from the now-viral confrontation. However, that day would unfold in unexpected ways. She reached the station at approximately 2 p.m. A gentle drizzle danced against the SUV's windshield as it entered the modest parking area. Karoline exited the vehicle, wrapped her coat more snugly around herself, and proceeded indoors. The station's producer, a lean man in his late 40s named Ronnie, made his way to her in the lobby. His expression was telling, with tight lips and fidgeting hands. There was an unsettling vibe in the air. Karoline, he started, we've received a last-minute request. It's a bit of a surprise guest scenario. Karoline hesitated. A visitor? No, not on air, he quickly clarified. She's here for a private meeting. Mentioned that you were acquainted from your high school days in Atwood. Karoline blinked. Atwood? That was a name she hadn't uttered in years. Ronnie motioned down the hallway toward a side office. She's inside, waiting. Mentioned it won't be longer than 5 minutes. The atmosphere feels serious. Despite her reservations, Karoline proceeded. Within the confines of the small room sat a woman with auburn hair neatly wrapped in a worn green scarf. She appeared weary yet somehow recognizable. Karoline felt the name wash over her as the door barely clicked shut. Miranda Beck. Miranda rose to her feet. She recalled. Karoline gave a slow nod. Yes, I recall. Nearly a decade had passed without a word between them. Not since graduation. In those days, Miranda was the reserved one, often found in the back row, keen-eyed and perceptive. She was known for her uncanny ability to sense things before anyone else, like who was dishonest, who was unfaithful, and who was concealing secrets. Now she appeared exhausted, as if life had presented more challenges than anticipated. I wouldn't come if it wasn't serious, Miranda remarked. You know how much I dislike being in the limelight. Karoline crossed her arms, a look of skepticism on her face. So why now? She asked. Miranda, unfazed, reached into her coat pocket and produced a folded sheet of paper, sliding it across the desk with purpose. These were posted in a forum I used to moderate, she explained. Not just screenshots, full transcripts. Some stretch back for years. The serious Karoline, and they're attempting to link your name to it. Karoline examined the printout closely. Her name surfaced in the margins of a thread about political strategy, crafted to imply she had personally endorsed policies she had never supported. Some even linked it to usernames she had never utilized. This is false. I understand, but it's impressive, truly impressive. The person responsible has a knack for creating activity logs, matching IPs, and even crafting false digital trails. I followed a few leads myself. The patterns align with a shell group based in Tucson. This isn't their first time. Karoline sensed the heaviness in her chest. Not fear, but determination. Why are you sharing this with me? Miranda paused. Because I have a debt to repay. In the past, when no one else defended me, you were there. Once, in a fleeting moment, it lingered. I thought it best to reciprocate before things escalated. Karoline carefully folded the paper and tucked it away in her purse. What steps should I take? Stay proactive. There are individuals attempting to undermine your reputation. Following that debate, they have justification. Karoline expressed her gratitude softly, then opened the door and made her way back to the hallway. Her team lingered by the studio entrance, their expressions reflecting confusion over the holdup. What was that about? Morgan inquired. Karoline paused, her gaze drifting to the window as the rain transformed into a relentless downpour. She couldn't afford to hesitate. We've encountered an issue, she finally stated, but it won't deter us. She approached the interview as if nothing was amiss, responding to questions with her usual grace and precision. Yet, In the recesses of her mind, the conflict was evolving. This had transcended mere politics. It had become deeply personal. If they believed she would retreat without a fight, they were in for a rude awakening. By Thursday morning, Karoline was already airborne, heading back to Washington. The turbulence was mild, yet the tension in the atmosphere was palpable. Morgan sat beside her, laptop aglow, phone buzzing intermittently. Across from them, Devin, her communications director, meticulously navigated a spreadsheet filled with trending phrases and sentiment metrics. "Damage hasn't started yet," he said, not looking up, "but we've got about 12 hours before this thing catches fire." Karoline stared out the window, fingers interlocked in her lap. "And when it does, we hit back, fast, precise, and boring," Devin replied. Morgan arched an eyebrow. "Boring? Sure. Let's not exaggerate. No need to turn it into a battle. We approach it as if it were a simple mistake. Allowing emotions to surface only grants it strength. However, by maintaining a detached perspective, we can dictate the rhythm." Karoline nodded, appreciating the composed and intelligent demeanor. Subtle strength often outlasted the loud and brash. Yet, beneath the surface, she recognized that this situation extended beyond mere narrative management. The mastermind of this forgery had clearly done their research. They expertly sowed seeds of doubt, just enough to provoke curiosity, but not enough to establish any ill intent. Voters, after all, despised uncertainty even more than they did deceit. Upon their arrival in D.C., the early evening had already settled in. Rain streaked the windshields of the SUV as they departed from the airport. The city appeared weary, with damp streets, overcast skies, and traffic moving as slowly as molasses. At the campaign headquarters, an urgent meeting was convened. Within the war room, a lengthy table stretched out, flanked by 2 whiteboards and a scattering of half-drained coffee cups. Karoline positioned herself at the front, her blazer from the earlier interview still crisp and in place. "Let's go over what we have," she said. Miranda had already sent a more comprehensive report complete with screenshots, timestamps, and technical trails. Devin displayed them on the screen. "The fabricated posts are found on 3 distinct forums," he clarified, "all of which are niche political boards. There seems to be an attempt to weave a narrative suggesting you endorsed surveillance policies in 2016, a claim you never publicly addressed." "Why the focus on surveillance?" Morgan inquired. "Clings to you. The notion that you're inexperienced, unproven, and already entangled in the system. They aim to tarnish your image before your presence expands." Karoline folded her arms. "So who's behind this?" Devin moved on to the next slide. "Anonymous accounts. However, we're beginning to track a shared IP range originating from Arizona, the same ones that were utilized to target 2 other conservative candidates last year." Morgan leaned in, sensing the orchestration behind it all. "This feels coordinated," she said. "It is," Devin replied. "And it's coming from someone with resources." Karoline massaged her temples. "All right, we handle this discreetly. Devin, prepare a public statement. Keep it straightforward and factual. Morgan will begin reaching out to local affiliates. Ensure they are well prepared to avoid any surprises. As for Miranda, she has already consented to speak on the record if needed, according to Morgan. Let's reserve her for a last resort. I owe her that much." They toiled late into the night. Pizza boxes piled in the corner, phones buzzing, screens illuminating the room. It lacked glamour, yet it was authentic. Genuine individuals pushing back against the darkness with their keyboards and caffeine. By dawn, the statement was published. The statement came across as a straightforward clarification rather than a heartfelt appeal.